Good morning.
Take it away.
I'm delighted to have an opportunity to share a few thoughts with you this morning. Appreciate the opportunity to listen to Andrew and Mr. Puckett share their views. I'm a demographer by training, and what I will begin to, you said 368? 388. I'm told to tell you that the presentation begins in your electronic file at 368. 388, see? You can tell I wasn't a banker. Ladies and gentlemen, our nation, every region, and every state, including the great state of North Carolina, is in the midst of an unprecedented demographic transformation. The kinds of changes we find ourselves in the midst of, you're going to have to buckle your seatbelt to deal with them. And if you ignore them at your own peril. Lots of things we can debate. Basic demography is not one of them. I assure you, if you're 5 years old today, 5 years from now, you're going to be 10 years old. Your birthday comes the same time every year. You just add one to what it was last year. And so the things that we're going to be talking about now are the most predictable things in the world. The kinds of changes this state is in the midst of are going to dramatically transform all of our social, economic, and political institutions, including the business of both K-12 and higher education. And I want to focus on both of them because from a business standpoint, I think it's incumbent upon us to ask the question, what's the customer that's walking in the door going to be like in terms of his or her skill set moving forward? So in the time allotted me, I want to talk about what the disruptive demographic changes are and what I see as some of the things. Normally when I do this talk, I talk about the 6 big disruptive trends. We don't have time to talk about all 6 of them today, but I listed them there, and if you're interested, there's a publication with all of them there. What I want to do in the time allotted me is talk about 2 colorful demographic processes that undergird the 6 disruptive demographic trends. And the 2 colorful processes I think we need to think about and incorporate, you need to think about and incorporate in your strategic planning process, because these 2 colorful processes are so important for our future competitiveness in the highly volatile global economy of the 21st century, where the new normal is certain uncertainty. And then I want to talk about, at the intersection of these 2 colorful processes, is a pernicious problem for us in this country that I've defined in a recent paper called the triple whammy of geographic disadvantage. And if we don't solve this problem, we're going to be in deep, deep yogurt in the highly volatile economy of the 21st century, where the new normal is certain uncertainty. And then I want to talk about some of the stuff that we've already begun to do to address some of these challenges. The 2 colorful processes are what I call the browning and graying of America. The browning and graying of America. I want to talk about the browning first. The browning is about immigration-driven population change in our state, in our nation. And if you look at the long-range picture going back to the beginning of the 20th century and moving forward, what you will see is that in this country, historically, we kept immigration pretty low from about the turn of the 20th century until the mid-1960s. And then you see a precipitous increase in immigration and the number of people who are foreign-born in our country. 1965 is the crucial year, because prior to 1965, we had an immigration law in this country that said if we were going to allow the foreign-born to come to America, it was important that they not upset the existing racial and ethnic balance of our country as it existed at the turn of the 20th century. So we had an express preference for people who were phenotypically similar to Anglo-Saxons, people who come to America, learn to speak English, anglicize their name, and this thing called a melting pot was supposed to work. In other words, we operated on a quota system that favored people from Europe. And that meant that the system was discriminatory against people from certain regions of the world. You go back to the 1880s, for an example, we had an immigration law called the Chinese Exclusion Law. They shouldn't be allowed to come to America because it would be, quote unquote, difficult to assimilate into mainstream society. Fast forward to the first decade of the 20th century, we defined what became known as the Asiatic Barrier region that included Japan. Shouldn't be allowed to come to America because it would be, quote unquote, difficult to assimilate into mainstream society. We had all of these theories about cultural inferiority and the like, and we codified it in terms of our immigration law in an exclusionary way. That all changed in 1965, coincident with the civil rights movement and domestic life. We liberalized our immigration law via something called the Hart-Celler Act of that year. Put a pin in it because it's one of the most profound pieces of legislation in our history, because what it did was eliminate those discriminatory provisions based on geographic origin, opening up the doors of our country to people who heretofore had not been allowed to come in relatively large numbers. Basically people from Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. This is such a profound piece of legislation that we use it to distinguish two groups of immigrants in America. Anybody arriving prior to 1965, we call them the old immigrants, and we refer to them as the invisible minorities. Anybody arriving since 1965, we call them the new immigrants, and we refer to them as the visible minorities. Why visible? Phenotypically different from the Anglo-Saxon model. Yes, they can always go through the assimilation process and the like, but you will always know that they're different because their phenotype is different. So takeaway number one, undergirding the browning of America, is a fundamental shift in geographic origin. Takeaway number two is a fundamental shift in phenotype. Takeaway number three, you can tell by the data that the numbers change dramatically over time, where today we have about 42 million people in this country who are foreign born, and the majority of them are people of color, primarily from Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. If you want to see the data, if you look at 2014, 42 million people in our country, you will note that about 46% of them are Hispanic. You will note that the second largest group, 26%, are Asian. Note that the share who were white, not Hispanic, was around 18%. That's radically different from the earlier period prior to 1965, because the numerical majority of them were from Europe. So we're talking about a profound transformation in our society. And when I talk about the browning of America, what I'm talking about is this fundamental shift in geographic origin, fundamental shift in phenotype, and fundamental shift in the numbers, where it's a very diverse pool of people today that are dramatically transforming our society and our communities. Undergirding that shift and changing mix of our population is also a profound shift in marriage patterns. The out-marriage rate means you marry someone of a different racial or ethnic group than you belong to, doubled between 1980 and 2008 among newly married couples, and it went from 3% of all marriages to about 8% of all marriages among currently married couples. Well, who's doing all this hooking up in strange ways? 41% of those marriages are between Hispanics and whites. About 15% of them are between Asians and whites, and in about 16% of the cases, both marriage partners are non-white. And you note that black-white marriages, which were illegal in this country up until the mid-1960s, were only accounted for about 11% of these marriages. And there's this other group, I don't know who the heck they are, but they're having fun in terms of what's the significance here? The school-age population walking into our K-12 and higher education system in the future won't fit into the nice and neat little crucibles we're accustomed to putting them in, and they won't allow you to put them in those clusters. And further, it raises a whole series of questions about what the structure of education that we're offering people. Whose history all of a sudden do we teach when we have a far more diverse kind of population? And these marriage patterns are further contributing to the changing and shifting complexion of our society. Corporate America got it a long time ago. Some of you may remember the Cheerios commercial. Came out a couple years ago, a couple of years back with the Super Bowl, where black guy sleeping on a couch. This little girl comes up to him and dumps Cheerios on his chest. It's supposed to be heart healthy, y'all. And it's obvious this little kid is mixed. And then the camera shifts to the wife. And the wife is white. Did you follow the Twitter traffic? Ugly stuff, but I like Cheerios, heart healthy. And the company wasn't bothered by the angst. So the next year at the Super Bowl, they had another commercial. Same family, and the woman pregnant again. What are they saying? This is America, get over it. And so we're going to have to figure out how, if we got a problem, get over it, because this is the reality that is going on, that this outmarriage pattern is further changing the complexion of the society, and the students that walk into our classes, be it in K-12 or higher education, are going to be far more diverse in the future. What's the significance of what I talk about the browning of America? We added about 27 million people to our population during the first decade of the new millennium. 92% of them were non-white, everybody but non-Hispanic whites, and about 56% of them were Hispanic. We are a migration magnet. We added 1.5 million people to our population during the first decade of the new millennium. 61% of them were non-white, and about 28% of them were Hispanic, because we're known as a new Hispanic magnet. We're an emergent kind of a community compared to California, Texas, and other places. But you begin to see how this whole process is enveloping our society and our community. This is so important for our future and so important to the strategic planning process that you're undertaking now, because what you have to understand is that migration and immigration are age-selective processes. What does that mean? It means far more young people migrate and immigrate than old people. That means old people don't move. They move slower and at a lower propensity than young folk. One more piece of this story. I'm going to say this and run out and go back to my day job. Young people are more likely to have children than old folk. Add those two things together, it has an impact on the age structure in your society. Look at the data. In 2014, the median age of the US population was about 38. Half of us older than that, half of us younger than that. Somebody tell me what the median age of a Hispanic is in America. 28 years old. Now, how many of you have heard in the immigration debate that Hispanics are a burden on the healthcare system in America? Don't get quiet on me now.
There we go.
Okay. What kind of major health problems do you have in your median age 28? Now, before you answer that, somebody tell me what the median age of a white non-Hispanic is in America. 43 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're in your 20s, you have acute health crisis. You've done something stupid, like stick your finger in the lawnmower. You got to go to the hospital and get it glued back on. When you get in your 40s, it moves from acute to what? Chronic. Which one costs the most? Trust me, chronic. I lost my wife to cancer at 48 years old. Her treatment the last 6 months of life, $5,000 a week. Just had a very dear friend, 62 years old, die of cancer. His treatment, $17,000 a week. What you hear makes no sense. These are young people, and we are aging in a way that you're going to need all that talent down the road. As you think long-term about educating the population, you're going to need these folks. Now, there's one more piece to this story, and this is for the ladies in the room. Y'all can tell the men, close their ears if you want to, but I think they need to hear this, ladies. There's something in demography, ladies, called completed fertility, okay? I won't give you the big theory today. Come on up to Chapel Hill Business School, pay us $100,000, we'll gladly tell you. Let me give you the pop version of it. Ladies, completed fertility is when you tell your husband, go take out the trash, ain't nothing else happening here. Completed fertility for women occurs between the ages of 40 and 44. There's this precipitous drop in fertility. What's the median age of a non-Hispanic white female in America? 42 years old. Now, every woman below white here is a woman of color. You will note a 6 to 20 year gap in the median age. Do you know what that gap is? That's your fertility gap. We know exactly what's coming down the path. Now, I know there's some of y'all in the room in your 40s tomorrow, I'm going home and fix this tonight. Go ahead. Leave now. You might go home and squeeze out one, but you're not going to do what a 29-year-old can do. It's fundamental biology, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you like it or not, it's coming, okay? And you got to ask yourself the question, if you want to close down the border like some people do and keep everybody out, what you got left? You got left the Bengay crowd. You can't survive, you can't thrive, you can't prosper moving forward. We already see the impact. Look. In 1990, 66% of all births in America were non-Hispanic whites. That dropped to 50% in 2008, and for the first time in history, in 2011, non-Hispanic white births dropped below 50%. And it's likely to go the other direction because of the dynamics in aging and the like. We know where the change is going to come. This is so important for us, that browning thing, because at the same time that immigration is transforming the complexion of society, aging The graying of America is transforming the structure. Now, you might ask the question, how do I know if I'm part of the graying of America? There are 4 ways, okay? 4. If you have difficulty seeing the screen, you're part of the graying of America. 2, if you have to go to the restroom twice after just going during this presentation, you're part of the graying of America. And 3, if you fall asleep, you're just an old codger, it ain't my fault, you're part of graying of America. Graying of America is about 3 things. It's about changes in longevity, declining fertility, and it's a group of us who are called boomers who were born between 1946 and 1964. We are living much, much longer today, ladies and gentlemen, than we even predicted. You see how the life expectancy at birth is moving up. Today it's around 78. And we now think living to 100 on a routine basis is well within reach. And there's one school of thought that says the person who will live to 130 has already been born. Now, how can that be? Well, we're taking better care of ourselves, eating better, exercising, all the medical advances that we have. And now we've got some of the leading people in the country we got this scientist who's developed called regenerative medicine, regenerated a bladder. So your bladder wear out, we'll sell you another one. We're working on every body part now. And Google just launched a company to prolong life, to eliminate death by prolonging life. We're talking about our actuarial tables, ladies and gentlemen, for Social Security and all the other stuff. It doesn't work, because we expected y'all to die what? Much sooner. But y'all don't die, you multiply. So we're talking about a profound change in the population, on the other hand, of aging. And part of the reason that we're aging is because of those lower fertility rates. In a statistical sense, ladies and gentlemen, what you have to understand is that if you are a couple, to replace yourself, you need to have 2.1 kids to replace yourself, statistically. Now, don't ask me about the 0.1, you just got to be rocking and rolling, okay? If you need 2.1 kids to replace yourself, ladies and gentlemen, who's replacing themselves in America? You got one group. You build a wall around the country and keep people out, what you got left? Sooner or later, you'll figure out you can't pay your bills. You cannot pay your bills. It's not a statistical aberration, and this is not just limited to the United States. Why is this going on? Well, this room is a powerful statement. Look at the number of women in this room. Educated, career-oriented and the like. What happens to the age at marriage when women become more focused on education and career? Goes up. What happens to the age at first childbirth? Goes up. And some people just say, I ain't doing it at all, and so what happens? The age of your population continues to increase in the process, and so non-Hispanic whites and all other groups have had a total fertility rate of 1.9 or lower for 2 decades. Now, I don't know how you get 0.9 of a kid. I taught a few of them in the system, but it takes 2.1 kids to replace yourself. You gotta understand that these things are connected, and I'm not just talking about it from the standpoint of, no, this is a competitiveness issue for us, ladies and gentlemen. We're not gonna win the global war on brawn, we're gonna win it on what? Brains and talent. So this is not trivial. And then there's a group of us who were born between 1946 and 1964. Let me see a show of hands. 1946 tonight. Some of y'all lying, but it's all right. 1946 and 1964. Those of us who were born between 1946 and 1964 are part of the post-World War II hormonal rush in America. Our fathers went off to World War II. They came back home and they got busy. They got busy to the tune of producing 81 million of us. We're known as the boomer generation. On January 1st of 2011, the first baby boomer born in America turned 65 and became eligible for what? Everything. Every day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year for the next 20 years, we boomers will be turning 65 to the tune of 8,000 per day. Every day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year for the next 20 years. That's called the silver tsunami. And it will have a profound impact on education in our system. Because everybody that raised their hand in this room, sooner or later, are going to be doing what? Exiting the labor market. It's called a succession problem. I did the numbers several years ago, so this is not right now. But when I did them several years ago, at Carolina, 66% of our faculty were aging baby boomers. In the UNC system, it was 77%. How do you replace 66% of your workforce? How do you replace 77% of your workforce? Look at the data. 19 million people increased in that growth rate of 32%. You will note that the second most rapidly growing population is the 65 plus population here, that because we're living longer, but we got a slight problem. What happened to the 25 to 44-year-old population? It's a big group, but what happened to it? It's declining. What we have missed is that some of the debilitating diseases that beset boomers and pre-boomers later in life are now besetting Gen X and Gen Y earlier in life, leading to the early onset of death and disability. If this population is declining, you got a slight problem, because these people are living longer, and when people tell you that Social Security is a pay-as-you-go system, do you know what that means? It means somebody else is spending your money. In order for you to get anything out of the system, what needs to be happening here? Somebody needs to be paying in. This needs to be growing, and they need to be doing what? Working. Ladies and gentlemen, 55% of millennials are either unemployed or underemployed. We call them boomerang crumb snatchers. Because what have they done? They've gone to college, graduated, and just yesterday on NPR, a third of them are back where? Home. Not buying houses, not buying cars, not working. You can't sustain yourself as a society and a community with those kind of numbers. So understand that this is not a trivial kind of matter as you think about your strategic plan and the whole discussion about what do we put in the toolkit moving forward to thrive and prosper in an economy where the new normal is certain uncertainty. And there's some pretty disturbing things actually with suicide rates among non-Hispanic whites and the like, where it's so bad now that it's threatening the life expectancy at birth for non-Hispanic whites. And it's not trivial. And so you need to understand as you think about these things, the connection between browning and graying. That's how often 8,000 per day, 65. But we are fortunate here in our state, when you look at it compared to the nation. Look at, if you look at the 25 to 44-year-old population declining for the nation as a whole, we actually grew, and our under 25 population grew more rapidly than the nation, and so did our total population at all ages, but so did the aging population. Why is this the case? Immigration. You take those young people out, you got a problem. You got a problem. Can't pay your bills. And we're also a retirement destination. So we're blessed in a sense, but the challenge is, how do you make sure that you leverage this competitive advantage in the marketplace for gain and advancement for our state in the global marketplace? But there is one kind of challenge that I think you need to be mindful of as you think strategically about our higher education system and our nation and our state in the global marketplace. And it's what I call the triple whammy of geographic disadvantage. At the intersection of this browning of America on the one hand and graying of America on the other hand is this pernicious development that's going to challenge us. Let me develop it for you. This is I'm beginning to develop a racial typology of U.S. counties. These red counties here are racial generation gap counties. And these counties, the adult voting age population is made up of predominantly white, aging, empty nesters. But the school-age population is predominantly minority. What kind of support for public education you think you get there? That's the ain't got no dog in the K-12 education fight. My kids are out of school. I'm most concerned about what? Crime, safety, and retirement amenities. And they vote self-interest, okay? These are majority-minority counties, the yellow, gold, whatever it is. The adult voting age population is predominantly non-white, school age population is predominantly non-white. Lots of interest in public education. What's missing? They're all low wealth counties, not enough money there, okay? The rest of the counties, the gray, are majority counties. The adult voting age population predominantly white, school age population predominantly white. Lots of interest and lots of support for public education. But in those counties, about 1/5 of the kids who attend school there are kids of color. But if you peer beneath the veneer and ask where are those kids in school, they're either in one or two positions. They're either attending racially isolated schools within those districts, or in the good schools, they're highly underrepresented in the college prep tracks, AP, honors, IB, and the like. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, the new majority of kids coming down the pike are between a rock and a hard place through no fault of their own in the public education system. That's whammy number one. Whammy number two is at the neighborhood level. These neighborhoods in red are predominantly white. 60% or more of the population is non-Hispanic white in those neighborhoods. Those neighborhoods are predominantly non-white. 60% or more of the population is non-white. And in the yellow neighborhoods, those neighborhoods are transitional. They're transitioning from white to non-white. We call that hyper-segregation, separate and unequal, and it probably rivals the segregation that existed the year that I was born in 1954 with Brown versus the Board of Education. That's whammy number two. Whammy number three is poverty at the neighborhood level. Those neighborhoods right there are extreme poverty areas where 40% or more of the kids in those neighborhoods are growing up, kids are growing up in households with incomes below the poverty level. Those yellow ones, orange ones, are high poverty. 25 to 39% of the kids are growing up in households with incomes below the poverty level. We combine those two and we call that concentrated poverty. And the yellow ones, the poverty rates below 25%, we call that concentrated affluence. When I talk about the triple whammy of geographic disadvantage, I'm talking about the kid that walks in the door, some combination of those things today that they have. And how many kids are we talking about? All three of those things, about 9.8 million kids, 93% of them are non-white. If you got two of them, say segregation, concentrated poverty, it's about 12 million kids, 81% non-white. If you got one of those things, it's about 20 million kids, that's 31% non-white. And if you got none of that, life is good for you, 32 million kids, but only 24% of them are non-white. In other words, we have a whole generation of kids there that don't even have a shot. Don't even have a shot. Those are food deserts. Right there. I was blown away. Some of you know we have our own school in Durham, North Carolina. And I was over there one day and I made the mistake of asking 3 little girls what did they have for dinner the night before. And one little girl looked at me and said, "Last night was not my turn to eat." She said, "In our household, we rotate who gets to eat dinner, and I get to eat every 3rd night." Now, I'm not talking about Bangladesh. I'm not talking about Bangkok. I'm talking about 6 miles from here in Durham, that if you look at every ranking, Durham is all that and a bag of chips plus dip, but there's a kid who gets to eat every 3rd night. And we think we're going to be competitive in the global marketplace where a kid gets to eat every 3rd night. That's the new majority, folk, that you got to deal with. And those are suspension rates in our public schools for black kids. 3 million kids suspended a year, and 250,000 of them referred to the police for misdemeanor charges as early as the 1st grade. Used to be 3rd grade, but Apex took the cake not long ago, a little kid in the first grade got referred to the police for threatening his teachers with a pair of scissors. Now, I've been out of school a long time, but I remember them scissors from the first grade. They wouldn't even cut the construction paper. And now what kind of school environment do we have where a kid gets referred to the police for a misdemeanor charge in the first grade? And I just read one yesterday where in Detroit, a kid brought a Swiss knife to school to sharpen his pencil because the pencil sharpener in the school was broken. And he gets suspended for 180 days. And that stuff follows you. Who's in this room going to give a scholarship to a kid with a record? Those are black kids. Those are the Latino kids with the suspension stuff. I mean, it's just, I mean, we got to fix that problem. Let me do this for North Carolina so you all see where we are in our state. I'm just going to do it quickly. So we're boom. I mean, you know, everybody, we've been growing like crazy. We're growing 18.5%, with the nation growing 9.5%, first decade, new millennium, 1.5 million people coming to our state when the South's growing only at 14%. What's been driving our growth over time? Immigration. Look at that. Look at that takeoff. About 8% of our population is foreign-born today. You look at that track. And the two things, Hispanics and immigrants, was transforming our society over that time. And the age thing, look at it. Median age in North Carolina, 39 for women, 54 live births for all women. The median age for white women is 44, 47 live births for 1,000 women. If you go down to the Hispanics, we're even younger, 24 years old, and 84 live births per 1,000 women. We better be happy that we got every one of those kids, because down the road, that's going to be the population that does what? Prepares. That's right. They're going to pay the bills. You got to understand the connection between browning on the one hand and graying on the other hand as you think about these issues. What's happened to us since 2010? Well, in this country, we've added another 12 million people to our population, and we've added in North Carolina close to another 500,000 people to our population since 2010. So 2010, 2015 in the state. 67% of that growth is non-white, 23% of it is Hispanic. That whole trend continues after the first decade. Of that 500,000 people we've added to our population since 2010, between 2010 and 2015, about 47% of that population concentrated in two counties, Wake and Mecklenburg. Okay? Another 35 to 40% are in those gold counties, and the balance of it in those yellow counties. All of the other counties, they are lost population. Okay? We have half of the counties in North Carolina, deaths exceed births, and out-migration exceeds in-migration. When your deaths exceed births and more people leave than come, you are a dying county. You're only as strong as your weakest link, okay? Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't kids coming from those counties that need education, but what's the financial base for that education in those places? It doesn't exist. It's not there. What's happened? You see the impact of these shifts that I'm talking about in our school system. Since 1990, we've added another 400,000 to the public school system, but there's been a fundamental shift in composition. A huge, sharp decline in white kids, a decline in African American kids, but that decline has been offset by Hispanic and other kids, Asian and other groups of kids in the school system. So we see this fundamental shift in the school system, but we lost 23,000 black kids, and the public school system lost 62,000 white kids. Now, a lot of white kids going to private schools and homeschooling and all of that. I'm still at a conundrum here. I think I know where they are, but other institutions. Because when you get long-term suspended, and I know where they are, but you see that change, net change of 175,000, but we gained a what? 183,000 Latino kids. You know, you're gonna need that. That's next generation talent. And what stunned me when I looked at the data, because we have a problem with males that I'll get to in just a second, but look at who's the decline. These are males here. We lost 29,000 black males, but we lost 33,000 black females in the system. And we lost 18,000 white males and 21,000 white females in the system. You know, we got some challenges here. For the first time in history, white kids in the public school system in North Carolina is no longer the numerical majority, dropped below 50%. And so think about your constitutional obligation to the young people of the state of North Carolina. It's changing. It's changing dramatically. So that typology, these are our racial generation gap counties in North Carolina: adult population predominantly white, school-age population predominantly minority. These are our majority-minority counties. Both groups are predominantly non-white, and those are the majority counties in North Carolina. You see the east of I-95 effect here and all of that. Those are the State Department Public Education districts there. That's predominantly white neighborhoods, 60% or more white. Those are predominantly minority neighborhoods, 60% or more non-white, and those yellow ones are experiencing transition from white to black or non-white. Same thing, I've just superimposed on segregation. Those are high poverty, extreme poverty neighborhoods. Those are high poverty neighborhoods, and the yellow is extreme is low poverty or areas of concentrated affluence in our state. And so our triple whammy in the state, it's a complex pattern, but you got to understand that the dynamic, and when you look at it at the neighborhood level and where kids are coming from and the challenge that they have, it's pretty tremendous. And I just pulled the data for you. You can look at this on your own, but these are suspension rates per 100 students across these different community areas. So in the majority neighborhoods, about 15 of every 100 students are suspended, but the range in the schools go from 2.1 to 62 kids out of 100 suspended every year. And if you go down here, it's from 11 per 100 to 76 per 100 suspended. You can't sustain yourself with those numbers. And those are the ones of reportable crimes. That's per 1,000 students, not 100 students. But you can see, you know, the things that kids are getting reported to the police for. And what stunned me when I did some of this work is when I looked at who was taking end of course tests, there's a huge sex ratio imbalance in test taking. Boys are not even in the room. Okay, that's who's taking the test. Blue line, boys, males, red line, females, across a set of school districts. Not even taking tests. Now, some of them are probably suspended, expelled, or whatever, but there's one school of thought that says that there's some school administrators who tell their boys, don't come to school the day of the test because I can't have you doing what? Screwing up my end of grade scores. And what do you get out of all of that? This is a school district that will remain nameless but in the state, but they produce 6,000 graduates every year. And on average, about 1,500 of those graduates go to the local community college. The blue line is the percentage of those kids that enter college ready. They're ready to take college courses, about 25%. The red line are the percentage of kids who need one remedial course, and the green line are the percentage of kids who need 2 or more remedial courses, okay? 71% of these kids couldn't pass developmental level math 1. adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Only 7% of the 71% ever made it to the starting line of college math. They spent all their Pell Grant money trying to get there, or they got frustrated and did what? Dropped out. Now, these are the graduates. I'm not talking about the ones who dropped out well before. You can moralize about this, you can do anything, but what I would invite you to think about is that this is a competitiveness issue for us moving forward. We cannot leave this many kids behind. It's incumbent upon us to think about how do you fix this problem. What it means, though, is that there's a huge sex ratio imbalance in higher education. For the past decade, the sex composition of higher education has been 60% female, 40% male. Now, I assure you at birth, the sex ratio is not what? 60-40. Here's the UNC system. 43% male. The predominantly white institutions, about 45% male. Minority serving institutions, 36% male. And the HBUs, 36%. Community colleges, about 44% male. In 2010, in the United States, we granted 572,000 more degrees to women than we did men in higher education. Where are the men? Where are the boys? See, the significance of this, ladies and gentlemen, extends beyond higher education, because when you have that kind of sex ratio imbalance, you can't have stable families, you can't have stable communities and the like, because ladies, y'all look good, you're educated, making money, but if you ain't hitched, forget about it. Not enough eligible, marriageable males to go around. This is not a trivial matter for us. And if we're serious about being on top of our competitive edge, you gotta figure. We had one school a couple years ago that was 80-20. 80% female, 20% male. I want you to hear from, we've been doing some work on kids who come from these concentrated poverty environments, first generation kids and the like. I want you to hear some of their voices about both their non-academic and academic challenges. This is some work we're doing at Carolina, and we've done some work community college on this. Now, let me just, before I present all this, let me just say that all of these kids made it through the system, but I got to talk about what it took for them to make it through the system, but I want you to understand the challenges that they faced. This is one kid, student number one, said, I feel like I've been kind of on a roller coaster. I feel like there's always something going on back home. And part of me getting away from that was having to cut off my parents, not liking I'm going to talk to you, not going to talk to you anymore kind of way. But for the first couple of years, my mom would call me needing money and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, look, I know I get this refund check, but it's not for you, it's for me. I'm sorry. I need the money for my own purposes. You can't be calling me for money anymore. I think me doing that really took a lot of stress and made it easier for me to focus on what was happening here instead of worrying about what was happening back home. Got to understand, the more diverse we become, cultural forces begin to shape who you are and what kinds of things that matter. You know, in my own family, you know, I had 8 family members between the ages of 84 and 97. In my family, I am Social Security. I understand that. So what does that mean? When my colleagues are going to South Beach and flying here and there and buying horses and horse farms, I'm doing what? Taking care of them. Understand that you can moralize about this, but it's reality. And as we become more diverse, these kinds of issues are things that kids respond to. Here's another one. I had a lot of issues at home, so it's really stressful for me because my parents are kind of in between homes right now. So it's not like I just got home and be like, oh, I'm just gonna go home and chill with my parents for a while. I haven't even been able to go home for the summer. I have to stay here and pay summer school and all that stuff. I mean, for me, it's been more of a hindrance than anything. Student number 4, My first year here was really hard because my mom would literally call me almost every other day, either complaining about my little cousin who has behavioral issues or complaining about money or other people in the family. It really started to stress me out my freshman year. I wouldn't even study. I would be so stressed out. I would go home and just go to bed because I didn't want to hear any of that. I just wanted to come here and have a good time, forget about all of that. Over the years, I talked to my mom and explained to her, it's not that I don't care, but I have problems of my own, maybe not as serious as yours, but I have to deal with those too. I'm here to support you, but at the same time, I'm here for a purpose, and that she was kind of pulling me back. I feel like just being open with her helped, and now every once in a while something will happen, but for the most part, she's just been encouraging. She wants me to finish because she didn't finish, so now it's just like, you're almost there, a year left, you got this. And what I have to tell you about this is that the key to her getting to that place was having at Carolina a mental wellness program in place that helped kids navigate the kinds of things when they're first generation and never know where that stuff comes from. Without that, so as you think about re-engineering education and what packages to go there, everybody's talking about how do we diversify. Diversity only gets you in the door. How do you build an accommodation system for the different population? That's important. Let's look at academic challenges for students. Most of my high school AP courses were actually offered online. We didn't really have the capacity or teaching ability to offer them at my school. Oh, I forgot to add that I took AP US and War History. The professor I had would go to sleep in class, but the science classes were okay, but I don't think they were good like preparing me for college science classes. Another student, we had AP classes at my high school, but the teachers were garbage, so that didn't really help me. I didn't pass not one of my AP tests, but I passed all classes with A's and B's, but I didn't do well on the tests. Third student, I was able to build, this is a community college transfer student, I was able to build relationships with professors and advisors at my community college, so it was helpful in that part of the transition. But academic-wise, I don't think I was prepared for Carolina. I felt like it was almost like high school 2.0. It was small classes and everything, but looking back, I think professors just babied and fed me the workload, and I think it's because maybe the mindset was like, oh, you at least made it this far. It was kind of weird. There were some great professors, and I did sometimes feel like I was engaging in learning the material, but nothing compared to this. My first semester here was a very awakening in that department. Think about it as you think about transfer issues and the like. And this one, another student said, my story is similar to yours. To give you a sense how easy my community college experience was, I took 24 hours worth of credits, which is ridiculous. It's unheard of here at least. And I worked 40 hours a week and still got 8 hours of sleep at night. I mean, that's how incredibly easy my college was, because they handed you a study guide. It literally had everything on the test on it, and I have a really good memory. Just had to read it twice before bed and the next day face the exam. But the part I will say that they did help me was they did allow me to really build my resume for college. I mean, I was a student body vice president there. I was involved in a lot of clubs, did a lot of volunteering, so that part helped me on character building aspect of it. But when it comes to the challenge that this place, Carolina, gives you, they did absolutely very little for me. And the last one. My first semester here was like enlightenment for me. I got here, was really naive, and honestly, my academic advisor led me down a terrible path, because I came here as a chemistry major, and I went to my academic advisor, and I was like, is it okay if I take physics, chemistry, and biology all in one semester? It was like, yeah, sure, you got it, you got it. Okay. That semester, I was up all night. I began to question, do I even belong here? I mean, the amount of studying I was doing, the lack of results, I really started questioning my ability as a student. I definitely knew at that point I should listen to my dad, who was screaming, saying, no, don't take 3 science courses in one semester. We laugh at it now, but if you are a first-generation student from one of these rural counties, you come in and somebody tell you that it's okay, what are you going to do? You know? So what do we got to do moving forward? I believe firmly that if we in higher education don't become more actively engaged in K-12 education for reasons of enlightened self-interest, we're going to be in trouble. Anybody in business would say, you got to know your customer. And you want them to be prepared to take advantage of the great education that we have to offer, but it's going to require more than just thinking about recruitment. We have to be able to leverage the expertise that exists in our institutions to develop evidence-based strategies and to beta test innovations aimed at improving college readiness for an increasingly diverse pool of public school students. I firmly believe we need an AHEC type system for K-12 education reform. Our AHEC system works wonderfully for health education. We need the same thing, I think, for K-12 education. And burying our heads in the sand and say, we're not going to look in a different direction when it comes to this, we're shooting ourselves in the foot, because those are the people who have to be the next generation to propel our state and nation. I think we got to make college success courses a mandatory requirement for both high school graduation and college admissions. When you're a first generation college student, where are you going to get it from if we don't institutionalize it in a way that makes it successful? When you do those courses, they really work. And I firmly believe that we need to expand the Carolina Covenant model of access, accommodation, and affordability throughout the system. Because the kids that I just showed you from the Covenant model, but they all graduated. But what it was all of the stuff in the toolbox here that made that possible for them to succeed. And I mentioned it earlier, succession planning for an impending wave of faculty and staff retirements. I always say, you can't replace me for what you pay me. And what I mean by that is that when other universities come after our faculty, they come with some pretty serious packages. And whether or not we can compete, I think you don't want to get into that game. I think we want to be forward thinking about how we retain talent, but also think about recruiting the next generation of talent, because it won't look like us. And the students that we're serving won't look like the ones that we're serving now. So this is not a trivial thing. Remember what I said, 66% and 77%. I don't know what the numbers are now, pretty easy to do, but I would encourage you to think about that. But this is a huge, huge thing, because we're only as good as who we put in front of the students to be able to teach. And if there's this huge wave of people who are retiring now, see, there's one thing about old man and old woman time, sooner or later, you have to go. And there's just a bunch of us that's about time to go. And so you got to think about this thing. And I think one of the biggest things for us in terms of mobilizing support, how do we get aging empty nesters to understand that they do have a dog in the K-12 education fight? That is called the future competitiveness of our nation. And I've been thinking really hard about how do I explain it to them. And this is what I've come up with, and I've done this in a couple presentations. I say to aging empty nesters, says, you know, sooner or later you're going to age to the level where you need somebody to take care of you. You do want them to be able to count your pills. Okay? I just showed you that we have a whole generation that can't what? Count your pills. Now you laugh about that, but if you're in that situation, or if you've ever had an elderly loved one that you're taking care of, you want the person who's taking care of them to be what? Competent. Mm-hmm. It's not the case. I could go on. I got examples of what we're doing at Carolina on this. I don't know if you want me to do it or not, but I'm happy. Yeah. Go to questions. Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Other than ruining my morning, that was a lot to think about. Have any questions? Looking around, everybody looked, the expressions were reflected what we're hearing from you. David?
Not really a question, just a comment, because it goes to something when I brought up with Andrew, is that, you know, our task is not just what happens when they walk in the door here.
Right.
It's before that,
That's
because
exactly
if we don't start addressing that, we're not going to get students that are capable of walking in here. And we've got to be, I know we don't need any more to take on because we got enough to fill many days here, but we're really going to have to get serious about, okay, how do we use this great university system to impact more strongly what's going on in K-12? And I say that as the husband of a public school, elementary school teacher, and the son of an elementary public school teacher. So we've got to do that. Got to.
No, absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions? Joan?
I think one of the most shocking things that you talked about today was the discrepancy between male to female participation in the education system. Would you elaborate a little bit more about what you think can be done about that? Because that's really critical.
Yeah. So it starts early. There's something called the fourth grade failure syndrome for boys of color. You can set your clock by it. All boys come to school ready to learn, excited about learning and the like. They get to about the fourth grade, they begin to disengage, and it's a precipitous drop till they get to about the ninth grade when they can drop out. And so we have to focus laser-like on K-3 education to make sure that every kid gets that fantastic start. And then we have to have sustained engagement throughout the life course from 3 to high school graduation on to college. So you got to define a life course perspective. And I don't have time to develop it, but one of the best things that we can do as we think about these issues is, in the work we do, we say deficit models are out, successful pathways are in. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the neighborhoods and communities that we're talking about, not every kid from those neighborhoods end up a failure. Some of them succeed against the odds. And so the crucial question becomes, what distinguishes success from failure? And so what we've been doing is focusing on those success matrix and say, can we scale those things so that more boys are successful and increasingly more girls, because we got to get to the bottom of all of that kind of stuff. So I think the big thing is, how do we transform teacher preparation to ensure that every teacher has the tools in her toolkit, in his toolkit, to work with the diverse constituencies that are entering our school systems today. Cultural competency training and the like. We've developed a program that's in this slide deck. You can see it. We have a whole thing, bridgestosuccess.org, that you will see all of this stuff. We have a idea lab with the best and brightest minds in the UNC system working on these issues, and we think we have some innovative things that are going to improve these things. One that I'll mention really quickly, when the NCAA changed the eligibility rules to play Division I level sports, what we figured out was that you need to know by middle school now what it takes to play Division I level sports. The days of magically passing something in your senior year to qualify are over. And so the other thing that we figured out was a lot of middle school and high school athletic coaches are either in one or two situations. One, they either have never finished college, or secondly, they're contract coaches. They have nothing to do with the academic side of education. They're just paid to what? Coach. Now, these men and women have an indelible impact on people. So we've designed a coaches initiative to move them from just the X and O's on the field to become youth development people. And we just beta tested it in Durham. I thought we'd have major pushback from the athletic coaches, but they ate this thing up. And so now we're in conversations with the Atlanta Hawks about doing it for all basketball coaches in the entire Atlanta metropolitan region, because even pro sports are worried about the quality of the kid that's coming out. It's no longer just about how high I can jump, how hard I can hit. You got to have some other things, because it's all about big data analytics and everything else and all of this stuff. And so there are lots of things, but I think focusing on a success paradigm as opposed to focusing on deficits is really important.
Anna.
Yeah, would you talk a little bit about your idea for an AHEC type system for K through 12?
I think these innovation, so my thing is, I think we need these innovation labs in all of these districts. Here, can I go back? Yeah. These are the state public ed districts. I think we need these innovation labs that focus on new ideas and innovations for how you educate poor children or children in general. I think they become hubs for professional development for teachers. This is where we usually do a lot of professional development for teachers. Envision a teacher up here coming over here for a day of training and then got to go back. If you ever driven up there, I pay somebody to go for me. It's just, it's an impossible system. And Andrew showed you that the online stuff ain't working very well. So we need a physical presence in all these places with the evidence-based best practices, just like the AHEC system, if we're going to improve the quality of the product that's walking into the schools that we all care about deeply and want to make sure that every kid has an equal opportunity for success in the educational environment. So that's the kind of model that I was thinking about. And we have some ideas about what goes into those innovation labs and people who are working on those kinds of problems.
Great. Jim, Harry, you.
Yeah, I got a question. Have you guys taken a look at or analyzed the ability for the Browning part of what you're talking about, so ability to pay for an education that's obviously spiraling out of control? So if you take a look now at the 1.2 trillion that Andrew talked about, which I think is the number that we're all sobered by, and what has been an escalating cost of higher education, right? And you can put anything you want to put on why it's gone up so much. A lot of arguments on it, right? But has anybody taken a look at what is, when you're talking about taking the border down, which I appreciate your opinion on that, what their ability to be able to save and do to be able to take this new wave that's going to come into the higher education, what's their propensity to be able to pay, and how that's going to impact financial aid?
Oh, I think they have challenge with the ability to pay, but what I would say is that if we figure out how to invest in K-12 education, they will all get scholarships because they are the most motivated kids in the world. They're first generation. Not everybody immigrates. They are risk takers by definition. All we have to do is unleash the talent. They will be competitive in the marketplace for scholarships and the like. We will have difficulty retaining them.
Thank you, Jim. I think we've reached the time limit for us, but I really appreciate your being here. It's in my opinion, we've had a great session this morning, and I think I hope we'll have many more like this in the future.